Hey guys, welcome to episode number 4 of Live in the Triangle. We take your favorite creatives and entrepreneurs that are making an impact on the local Triangle community, finding out what makes them tick. This week we have Amber Smith of Activate Good. For those of you not familiar with Activate Good in the Triangle, the 1,000 foot, overview is they're connecting people with the local nonprofits. But, Amber can give us a better description, and I want to say thank you again for being with us this morning, Amber.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And so, like I said, that's the 1,000 foot description of Activate Good. Can you give, those watching at home or those who are not familiar with Activate Good, maybe the better description?
Yeah, so you had it right. So Activate Good is a nonprofit ourselves, and our mission is to help other nonprofits find volunteers and at the same time help individuals who want to give back find a great way to volunteer that fits their passion, their schedule, and their interests.
So when we talk about nonprofits, are we talking about like stuff like the food bank, the local kitchens, or is there a particular nonprofit, I guess, that kind of area that we're targeting?
We are talking about all sorts of different charitable organizations. The food bank's a great example. We'll work with groups that help kids find clothing if they're, homeless and need clothing. Food banks, food pantries, organizations that mentor kids like Boys and Girls Clubs or Big Brothers Big Sisters, groups that build homes. It really runs the gamut. There's so many organizations out there that need help.
And to clarify, does this solve just Raleigh or is this the entire triangle?
This is the entire triangle. We started out here with Raleigh as sort of our core and built outward from there.
Awesome. So, we kind of, those at home now have a little bit of understanding of what Activate Good is. I guess, I'm curious, how did this get started? I mean, was this you sitting at home in, like, high school, college, saying, like, hey, somebody should go and help out local nonprofits? Or, was it just like, hey, nobody's doing this, let's do this?
So sort of all of the above. My friends and I, we've been volunteering a lot. There's an international organization called Kiwanis Club. I'm not sure if you've
No.
heard of it, but it's a huge service organization. We've been volunteering a lot with all sorts of different causes. And if you start volunteering, I must warn you, it can get addicting. So we were just volunteering for everything, and we loved it. But at one point, we decided we kind of wanted to kick it up a notch. So my friend Heather and I, we decided to quit our jobs, or in my case, put off returning to school, which was NC State at the time.
Yeah.
And we were going to travel around the country for 2.5 months, volunteering in every state that we visited. So that's what we did. It's crazy. This year is our 10-year anniversary of that road trip. And when we volunteered in all these states, we really heard the same thing from all the nonprofits that we worked with, which is, yeah, we always need more volunteers. And then we would talk to random people on the street and random people we were working with, and they would say something like, yeah, I've been thinking of getting involved, but I'm not quite sure how to get started. So when we got back home to Raleigh, we decided to continue our mission here and try to connect people who wanted to volunteer with those opportunities to do so. And then Activate Good was born.
So you said, I guess, had that built-in, gene of wanting to help people, wanting to, get involved with nonprofits at an early age. I think a lot of people, though, there's definitely tons of nonprofit opportunities here in the Triangle alone. What do you tell people who are currently not involved with a nonprofit? I mean, is there something you say like, hey, maybe you should get involved with a nonprofit? I think me personally, I think there are tons of nonprofit opportunities here in the Triangle. And I know I personally tell people to always that, hey, that afternoon you're not doing anything, that you're playing that video game, you're watching that television show, that they should go get involved. But, do you have any suggestions on how to get other people involved in nonprofits?
Well, the first thing that I would say is I think everybody has that gene to want to help people. I don't think it's it's something special that I or some other people have. And I think that's actually a common misconception about volunteers, is that a volunteer is a certain type of person, but actually anybody can be a volunteer. And so to that person who's maybe thinking of getting involved, the first thing I would tell them is to really analyze themselves and their own interests and their schedule, and kind of get a good understanding of what would be a good fit for them. I think that's a really important first step, because you know, the better fit a volunteer opportunity is when you get started, the more likely you're going to love it and want to continue. And if you just can't figure out, you know, what would be a good fit, then there are lots of ways to sort of try different things. I mean, you know, Activate Good, we promote long-term and skills-based volunteer opportunities, but we also have some short-term volunteer opportunities that you could try out, like you said, just on a Saturday afternoon or morning. Just today we had 3 or 4 different things going on around the triangle. So there's ways to sort of dabble and experiment, but then afterwards think about, you know, did I enjoy that? Was that a good fit for me? Would I do that again? You know, and that's how you sort of build up your inner volunteer, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. You actually, I think, hit the nail on the head that I don't think a lot of people realize. So I'm friends with Jen Needlemeyer of the Food Bank, you might know. Awesome woman who hopefully I'll have on here as well coming up. So Jen has taught me, like, you know, I think a lot of people think, oh yeah, you know, a nonprofit just needs a set of hands. But you just mentioned, you know, there's so many skill sets that nonprofits don't even have. What do you think? Yeah. What do you think is the biggest thing, you know, nonprofits need today? I mean, I know I've talked to a lot of them and like don't understand the digital space at all. I come from an agency perspective. I'll throw that out there. So I see like tons of, you know, things missing in that regard. But is there anything particular you see, I guess, wrong, or one particular thing that nonprofits need the most today?
Well, you know, nonprofits are as diverse as human beings. I mean, all of them, I mean, because they're all started by human beings. So, I mean, they all have different things they bring to the table. I think one thing you said, though, about the technology piece is absolutely true. A lot of nonprofits are still figuring out how to best capitalize on that technology and social media and things like that. But in conjunction with that is storytelling ability. So nonprofits are constantly needing to hone their ability to tell their own story and the story of the people that they help in order to reach yet more people. And then further than that, always nonprofits need help figuring out ways to develop fundraising plans and be successful in that, because obviously without the resources, it's very hard for them to accomplish their mission.
Yeah, so you mentioned that nonprofits, you know, always need fundraising plans. You yourself running a nonprofit, I'm curious, you know, what do you say to somebody who does have a nonprofit idea or something like that, you know, brewing in them? What was I guess, what's a good catalyst for them, or what was the catalyst for you that, you know, besides, you know, traveling, what, you know, for lack of a better term, made you really get off your ass and say, hey, you know, I'm actually going to do this?
Well, actually, I would say that looking back, you know, now many years later, I probably started a bit too early and got into things a bit too quickly. I have to be well researched and everything like that, but I think one thing I would have done differently is developed a business plan much earlier on, and that's something I recommend to anyone considering a nonprofit, because that business plan formation will force you to think about things like who else is providing these services in this space, how am I going to generate funds in order to achieve our mission as an organization, but most importantly, it makes you think about what is the end outcome of the nonprofit. You shouldn't just, you know, say, I'm going to start a nonprofit just because you want to start a nonprofit, or especially not to say just to, you know, bring yourself money. That's not a good reason to start a nonprofit. You should only start a nonprofit if you have a problem in the world that you want to solve and think you have a good solution to solve that. That should be your reason. So for me, it actually took me a long time to figure out that volunteerism was like the key, but the core of my issue that I wanted to solve was essentially apathy. You know, I saw a lot of problems out there not getting solved, and a lot of people who had the talent and the time to step up and try to solve these problems, but possibly weren't. And I didn't know if it was a disconnect or a lack of concern, and I know now it's not a lack of concern, it's definitely just that disconnect. So volunteering is like the physical manifestation of that concern. Like, you love your community, you care about some issue, you want to tackle this issue. Well, volunteering is a great way to do that. So getting people to volunteer is kind of like activating their inner like problem solver. So that was probably a long tangent.
No, no, no.
I think it's important to be said, because these are the things I've thought about now many years later that I would have loved for someone to tell me when I first got started.
So you actually mentioned the word community there, and I'm curious. So I think in particular the Triangle has a really good community, Raleigh in particular, as well as, Durham is now starting to evolve as well into creating, a lot of the things that Raleigh is doing. They have the American Underground now. Do you think, something like this, something like Activate Good could have, been created and could have happened somewhere else? Or do you think the fact that we have such a tight-knit, loving community was able to help you?
Well, the community definitely helped, give Activate Good a boost, but there are organizations like Activate Good in many other cities across the country. So, others recognize this need to bolster volunteerism. And, the funny thing about that is our area, the Triangle, actually has a really low volunteer rate compared to the country. Raleigh ranks 40th out of 51 cities of a similar size across the country. As a state, last I checked, North Carolina was in volunteering. So that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
There are many theories as to why this might be the case, but one of the most prominent theories is that, people care for sure, but we have so many new people coming in all the time. They just haven't had a chance to form that bond with the community yet. So they very well may do that, but you're more likely to volunteer and start tackling issues in your community when you have that bond with your community.
Wow, yeah, that's something I always tell people. I know the running joke to me is you're never going to meet somebody who actually lives in Raleigh or in the Triangle, who's from the Triangle.
Right.
So I guess you also mentioned the 10-year anniversary of Activate Good is coming up. Are you guys doing any? I have to ask, are you guys doing anything to celebrate?
Well, it was the 10-year anniversary of the road trip that kicked off Activate Good. I wrote a nostalgic blog post about it that you can find on the Activate Good blog that sort of reflects on the story and where we are now.
Okay, awesome. I'll be sure to link to that. So I guess my final question to you would be you mentioned definitely fundraising is a big avenue for nonprofits as well as Activate Good. Are there any other challenges that you have seen in particular in the nonprofit space that that you maybe see hey, nonprofits continue to keep doing, definitely need to fix this?
I would say, there are a lot of great organizations out there. Some of them are doing really, really amazing work, and I think just collaborating with one another and continuing to use each other as resources is going to be something really major that nonprofits need to do going forward. Maybe one organization does this and another organization does this, and they hadn't thought about the synergy between the two, but just thinking about those connections and how we can sort of all work together to tackle larger issues. I mean, you're talking about ending homelessness or putting a stop to human trafficking. These are gigantic issues that it's going to take more than a few people and just one organization to solve. We have to work together. It takes multiple industries, multiple institutions, all working together to tackle issues like this. So I think collaboration is a huge part of nonprofit challenges and what we need to be doing.
Awesome. Well, we've definitely hit the 15-minute mark, so I just want to kind of wrap things up again. Thank you again, Amber, for being with us today. For those of the people watching at home, where can they find you online and find Activate Good?
So check out our website, activategood.org. You will see a bunch of volunteer needs posted up there. We're also very active on social media, so find us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and I'm sure there's some more too that I'm forgetting. There are also, some great things coming up in the next few months that we'd love to have you come out to. We've got our Couture for a Cause fashion show on Saturday, November 15th. You can get information about that on our website. And we've got National Family Volunteer Day the week after that on November 22nd. So, maybe you want to teach your kids about volunteering. It's a great opportunity to bring them out. And then holiday volunteering coming up right after that. So it's going to be a great busy season full of volunteering.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Amber. And again, for those watching at home, you can always reach me at Cole Watts on Twitter, or you can always email me at cole@rallythetriangle. Thank you again for everyone watching. Stay connected and stay awesome.